Yeah, this is our third startup snack already. There's quite a few people who have been to all three, which is really cool, and also quite a few new people. Welcome. I will start by quickly introducing the Venturi to you and what we do. So the Venturi is an innovation agency based in Vienna, and we combine hypothesis-driven methodology with hands-on execution power in the fields of growth marketing, data and software engineering, as well as innovation management. And we work together with established companies as well as with startups. One of our core programs is actually Elevate, our accelerator. And we do all this to come closer to our vision, which is, next slide, please. Exactly. Our vision is to become the leading partner for a new generation of innovators who responsibly execute solutions that make a positive contribution to society. Yeah. Now, enough of self-promotion. I'm going to hand over to Miriam. Stage is yours.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Welcome to our today's session about how to acquire customers, and we will specifically talk about 12 different traction channels and different strategies you could use there on how to get customers on board. I'm Miriam. I'm head of the growth marketing team at the Venturi. I'm with the Venturi since 2 years. I'm also lecturing and mentoring and speaking at a couple of universities at WU Wien and FH Wien. Before that, I've been around in the startup environment for quite some time, starting back then with founding my own startup, Stabilizer, which was a camera stabilization system, and then supporting a lot of other startups, helping them grow, before joining basically Patchbox as their CMO. And in my very, very previous life, I was an IT project manager at IBM, but that's kind of a long time ago now already. But I'm also wondering who is here. I know this chat is not that great on emoji game, but still, if you can also just type if you're too lazy to find an emoji, but I would like to get a bit of a feeling who is in the room. So if you're a startup or a marketer or a listener from space, you can also specify if you're somebody else. But feel free to drop a note in the group chat. Cool, I see some aliens, listeners from space, marketeers, startup and mentor for other startups. Cool. Cool, mixed field. Whenever you have a question in general, feel free to drop a message in the chat, or also feel free to interrupt me. If not, we will have at the end some time for a Q&A as well. But since it's sometimes easier to answer on the spot, feel free to interrupt me as well if I oversee a message in the chat. Cool. Glad that we have so many aliens from space here. This will be a great trip to the galaxy. No, okay, I'm maybe getting too much into our astronaut theme right now. So before we start talking about channels, just quickly, since we work with the growth hacking methodology at the Venturi, I want to give you a quick intro on what it is and how we work, and how you could probably use it as well for your startup or company, or in whatever approach you might need it in the future. So basically, growth hacking is a data-driven process of rapid experimentation along the whole funnel. So from awareness all the way to retention and revenue, with your product and across channels to identify the most efficient way to grow. This means basically we are conducting a lot of different tests, not only to different traction channels, but also with the product to find out what works and what doesn't work, and basically continue working on the parts that work and scale them to build basically this growth engine. As quickly mentioned, this whole funnel starts from awareness. So how do customers first time hear from us, to acquisition, how do we get them on our page, to actually activating them and becoming a customer or signing up, becoming a lead. There are different levels basically, depending also on the product, to the retention level of where we try to find ideas or experiments on how could we get them back on board, and how can we make them refer us basically. So using and leveraging the existing customer base to the point of discussing basically ideas on how to grow revenue, how to grow a customer lifetime value, how to basically also scale sales. And this is kind of the way it's done or how it's working. So normally you start with generating a lot of ideas, and basically my 12 traction channels today, you could also use that as a base for this massive idea backlog and think about what you could do in different channels, and basically just start a massive brainstorming on what channels are interesting for you, what you could do there, and how basically big the impact of this initiative could be. In the next step, when you have such a massive backlog of things that you could do, you need to organize and prioritize it. Sorry. So thinking about how easy is something to do, how much impact do I expect from an activity, and how confident am I about it? And this is the so-called ICE score, and that it's one way basically to prioritize. So this way you could identify, let's say, some maybe low-hanging fruits, and do a prioritization on your ideas on how to proceed. Once you decided on these, you should start setting up a test, defining a hypothesis and a clear outcome. So what you expect from this initiative or idea, and then you let the test start. And then afterwards, it's really important to look at it and analyze it and optimize it. So really looking at the data and saying, okay, this worked, this didn't work, this I'm not quite sure yet, maybe I need to change a bit in my test setup, or maybe it opens up just more questions and I need to design basically another test based out on it. And this is how it's repeated again. And basically the things you learn that work should become part of your general marketing strategy. And then you should try to scale them or try to basically optimize them, automate them, and let them become part of your growth engine. We kind of, when you get very started at the beginning, we have our growth hacking canvas where you can think about basically what are my goals. You should always try to define them in a smart way. So have a number, have a time frame, be specific about it. Who am I talking to? Thinking about your audience and understanding your audience is super important, whatever you do basically. So really take some time in investigating your audience and learning about them. And then, in between you can think about, okay, what is my actual budget? Do I have areas I want to focus on? Which tools do I have or do I need to work on the different topics? And then you can do a massive brainstorming basically along the whole funnel. So this is just if you're thinking about how should I get started, this growth hacking canvas can help you. But today I'm here to not talk more about growth hacking process in general, but rather talk about 12 different tactics or 12 different traction channels that, I don't know, especially maybe if a very early stage and you're trying to get first traction to your site could help you. Some are more maybe one-time activities, other are like sustainable tactics that you can use for a longer time frame as well. So the most obvious one at the very beginning, if you're starting out, so here are our 12 tactics that we're going to talk about, but I will talk about every single one in detail. So the first one is the most obvious one, but not always leveraged enough. It's the friends, family, and fools. Basically, it's your first easy way of getting traction and really also pushing them and mobilizing them and utilizing their network can be a really good driver at the very beginning of your business life. Basically, you need your friends, family, and fools on board and motivated, and should also think about really a strategy on how to involve them and how to activate them so that you leverage your network. And it seems so obvious that people sometimes forget about it or feel uncomfortable being pushy or are scared to seem pushy towards their friends, but in reality they also want to support and help you and might have really good contacts for you. So work out a list of friends, families, or people you talk to. Also, I did a lot of crowdfunding campaigns in the past, for example, and what I always did and recommended, basically also the people I worked with, is really starting a sheet on adding every person they are ever talking to about their idea or their product, and basically noting down their name, how they're talking to them, so which contact channel they are using. And for crowdfunding specific case, always a probability on how likely they're going to how likely it is that they're going to support the project or not. So at the end of the day, you already have this first list of potential supporters for your crowdfunding campaign. But also, if you're in regular business and you're planning a launch, you kind of have a feeling of how many customers or potential customers do I actually have already out of my network. So not just doing it because it's anyways happening, but also really putting a bit of a strategy onto it and making it easy also for your friends and family and your surroundings to share your content or your product, and preparing texts or images for them can be a great way on getting first traction. So leveraging your own network is the first most obvious thing, basically. The other thing is really looking out on what blogs and forums are out there. One very large and popular platform is, for example, Reddit. It's a social network forum combined, but there are basically subreddits for everything, or basically nearly every topic out there. And there are quite engaged subreddits on specific topics. So it might be a really great channel for you to get customers on board. And there are different ways on how you can get active. First of all, you can become an active Redditor yourself in these subreddits. So you can start posting and commenting to other posts that are already there. A learning for me is basically also always look how people are kind of communicating, because some subreddits have a bit of their own language on how they post stuff and what kind of type of post gets also high engagement, and really try to stick to that tone and to the way it's done. Also, it helps if you have a Reddit account that has some credibility, basically, but if you're just starting out, it's also fine. Might be limited in some subreddits what you can do, but it can be a really great channel on getting a lot of traction, basically for free. You need to invest time and engage. You can also basically do Reddit ads as an alternative, although to be honest, I did Reddit ads in the past, not massively, and I always had better results if I did like an organic strategy on Reddit compared to an ad strategy. But I haven't done ads for some time, so maybe I'm going to test it soon again. Because I have now a client, for example, where Reddit is a super important channel, which you could already see based on search results for that topic, when basically Reddit was one of the top 10 search requests connected with that topic. Yeah, I think the slides will be shared afterwards because Marianne is asking. Another channel, or like, which could be kind of similar, is Reddit working well in Austria? Yes, I mean, it always depends on the topic, to be honest, but yes, there are active Redditors also in Austria, B2B or B2C. I tried it actively for both type of categories. So for Patchbox, for example, which is a cable management solution for network cabinets, a very strong B2B product. I also engaged actively in like all these network administration subreddits, which I think, Barbara, are also relevant for you and your target group, probably, if I remember correctly what you're doing. And that worked quite well. We worked there a lot with like cable fail pictures or cable porn pictures. I mean, you have to always think about what the audience is discussing there and add content that is matching. But I also did it for B2C products where it worked well. So it's easy to research if there are subreddits that are relevant for your topic, and it's easy to see who is active there and what are they discussing. And it might be also a good research tool to learn more about your audience. So if you're wondering what questions are people asking, it's also a good tool to stalk basically on Reddit what are common questions connected to a topic that I could maybe also answer in my content strategy. And the same goes for Quora, basically. It's this platform where there's only answers and questions given. So you can check if there are questions out there that you can answer to, or you can, of course, I mean, not that I've ever done that, but you can also ask questions and maybe answer them yourself from another profile. But it's also like, it's a bit of traction out here and there that might help you building up some credibility, especially at the beginning. I think Quora, for me personally, has never been the massive like growth channel, but Reddit can bring actually quite some substantial traffic to your site. Good. Then another thing closely connected to this is groups on Facebook, and also LinkedIn groups are growing, but so thinking about the same strategies on LinkedIn might make sense as well for your specific target group. But there are different ways. First of all, you can engage in groups, of course, and look for groups that are relevant for you. So becoming an active member in a group. Here, my recommendation of what worked well for me in the past was more asking for feedback and being more like posting engaging content rather than too advertorial content, because it's communities and not just an ad placement. So really invest a bit of time on working out what content could that specific group get engaged. And the other thing is, it's a bit of a more long-term strategy, but also really building up groups can be part of your strategy. So back then when we were working on Stabilizer, we wanted to launch a 360-degree version of it. So a camera stabilization system for this VR cameras that were entering the market, and it was kind of in the early stage phase. So part of my strategy was starting a community group on Facebook for all the kind of regular cameras that were launching at that time. And basically I started this 360-degree group that you see the picture here. Now it has over 3,000 members. To be very honest, never leveraged it. Anyhow, we at the end, decided not to continue working on this product. I never put any effort in this group. I never post. The only thing I do, I accept new members. Basically, I'm also a really bad moderator for this group. But just saying in general, it also might make sense to think about, can I build up my own community or group on Facebook, especially if you're maybe an early mover and there is no community yet, or there is no user community on the platform. So you could be the first or one of the first building up a group. That could be also a great leverage for your business. So not just getting active in groups, but also building up your own groups. Then another launch tactic basically could be, it's not feasible or relevant for every product or category type, but if you are a software as a service, software also for hardware product, it works. You can launch your hunt on Product Hunt. It's basically a platform where new products are upvoted, and kind of you can offer a special deal if you want, but it gives you some visibility and can drive you some traction at the very beginning. And it's a lot of early adopters basically that are on the platform. So chances might be high that you could get a bunch of customers out of it. What is important is that you not just launch on Product Hunt, but you prepare a bit. So it's like everywhere you need a bit of engagement on your launch, that basically you get the visibility from the others. So making sure you have some people that are going to upvote your product or ask questions when you launch is really important. But then it can bring you some substantial basically traffic. It's more like a one-time activity, but it could be also part of your general strategy when you're launching a new product, that you're also launching it on Product Hunt or Beta List is kind of similar. Product Hunt is completely for free, basically. And for Beta List, it's for free if you don't want to launch on a specific day or time. Other than that, you're kind of in the waiting list and you just get published randomly at some point. And if you want to skip that basically and skip the line, you need to pay for your beta list launch. And to be honest, I did both in the past. I had better experiences with Product Hunt launches, where I had the feeling I got more visibility and traction, but both are fine. And basically it doesn't cost you anything to submit your project to beta list as well. So it can't hurt, basically. Good. Another thing, maybe not super crazy, but public relations or PR is still great. It has many benefits. First of all, it's giving you credibility, which you need at the very beginning quite often, and you can use this trust element of newspaper names and articles that they wrote about you as a trust element on your page, basically. So that's one part. The other one is that it's good sites linking to you. So it's also from an SEO perspective quite nice to have some articles out there, especially like online articles in this case. And the other thing is, of course, if you manage to be published in relevant media, then you also get, of course, traction from these sites, although there is never a guarantee on how much traction or how much traffic you really get from an article. But I'm just saying that doing PR work can pay off, and it's kind of for free. I mean, you need to invest time and reach out to the different journalists, but it's not impossible to be featured. There are also basically every media outlet is looking for stories to write about. So if you provide them a good story, they will write about it. What you need to do is still prepare a press kit where you have a press release and you have your logo and your image assets and everything easily prepared so that it makes the work for the journalists very easy. And basically, in my experience in the past, I did PR work myself. I did it with agencies. To be honest, I'm not that into doing PR work myself, but I learned quite often, especially if you're a founder yourself and you start doing this reach out, that it works quite well. And journalists are actually quite responding, in my feeling, sometimes more than if it's a PR agent doing, because it's more of a personal connect and maybe also a more personal message. But of course, the advantage of also professionals doing it, that they sometimes have really good relationships with journalists and magazines, and they know how to do their job. But I'm just saying it's not that it cannot be done by yourself, and don't be shy basically to reach out to people. They need stories to write about, so they are also happy to write about things they found interesting. But you just need to think about how you're going to sell it to them and pack it into a story that is worth writing about. Okay, Thomas is asking, can you share some insights how to promote apps, wellness, fitness, or digital health apps? Yes, I'm going to talk about a bit app store optimization later on as well. And of course, some other tactics might work well for apps as well. I'm also very honest, I'm not the most appy person. No, that's not a word, but I don't have crazy much app experience, if I'm very honest. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about apps, but I do, of course, have some experiences that I can share as well here. But tactic number 6 is basically thinking about events, meetups, and speaking engagements, in the sense of course, which could you attend to that makes sense, but also think about if you could maybe host your own events or meetups or even summits if it's becoming bigger. For example, we are hosting also the Growth Hackers of Vienna meetups. So if you're not joining us yet, maybe you want to join us in the future. A little advertisement here. But we also do this basically not in our venture rebranding, as you can see, obviously, but more as a neutral event platform. It's also not us always talking there. Quite often it's basically we're also not talking at all, but we are inviting others because it's also interesting for us to hear and learn from the experiences from the other. But it has been also a good driver for us to get basically talent. So we got some people applying, and basically one of our now team got in contact with us via this Growth Hackers of Vienna meetup. Also, we got some clients out of it. So it's kind of a great tool that can pay also off. But of course, it needs some time and investment. Also in the at the very beginning of the venture, when it was strongly focused on bots, we did a lot. I mean, I wasn't part of the venture, but there were a lot of bot meetups and also the bot summit hosted, and it was a really great driver to get attention for this entire topic and to be seen as basically the market leader in these topics. So I think also if you are a B2B business, thinking about hosting events or meetups can be a really good strategy on how to position yourself and get customers and potentially talent depending on the topic. But I think what is important is that you really have to give at these events and meetups. So giving relevant information and really fulfilling the need of the attendees. And it's not like a sales event in that sense. And The same comes to looking out for speaking engagements, maybe not hosting your own events, but trying to get on stage on other events or other webinars. Now a lot is happening online, which might be also a good opportunity to get some international traction, because you don't have to travel everywhere to be part of some summits or events. And basically that's always kind of a loop. So once you start being present on some conferences, the chances are higher that you're getting invited to others as well. But also just attending a classic fair or an event can work out as well. And here you can think about as well maybe strategies on how you can leverage your presence at an event in the best way. So if you're going to a traditional fair, because it's also relevant for your business, think not about only what you can do at your booth, but how to create basically traction around an event. For example, I did what worked quite well recently. If it's really niche events, also doing Google search ads, for example, on that specific event, and there you get really good click-through rates and a lot of visibility for little money, let's put it that way, because not a lot of people are doing it and bidding basically on events they're attending, but it works the best if it's really a niche event and you don't have, like, basically you know that everyone who is searching for that event is really your target audience as well. Good. Then let's talk about LinkedIn. You see, this is an inspirational session about a lot of things that you could do, and you have to pick what might be relevant for your audience or your business, because that's massively different in every setting. If you think about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has, I don't know, be the platform 2020, let's put it that way. Everybody was like, LinkedIn is so changing. It's now becoming really a community platform, and the news feed is super active. And I also do feel that it changed basically after this first hype, or after the beginning of the year. I'm a bit more resigned now, let's put it that way. I still think it's a great channel to reach, a potential channel to reach your audience. And there is also some little hacks you can do. So not only doing organic postings or building up a group that we already talked about, but you can also do active outreach to your target group, not only with Sales Navigator, basically, which is maybe the more expensive way, but there are really easy automations. For example, you could use Phantom Buster, where you can easily set up LinkedIn outreach, and you can define basically with which people you want to connect, and if you want to send them a message automatically. I mean, probably all of you have seen that you got random messages or friend requests from people that are sometimes good, sometimes not that good. So really think about what to put in your message to not seem too spammy. But I did it a couple of times, and people are still reading it. So you do have here a kind of easy way of getting attention from people, but you really have to think about your messaging and what action you want them to take, basically. And this could be one way of tackling LinkedIn, basically. Another thing, which is a classic one from growth hacking literature, let's put it that way, is so-called platform seeding. So really thinking about where are your users currently solving their problem, and how could I reach them there? So there is this very old school example of Airbnb, who made it really easy at their beginning to post basically room ads, not only in Airbnb, but at the same time on Craigslist. And Craigslist was basically the English-speaking platform for booking apartments, or like the Willhaben, basically, in the English-speaking world. But that was really one of the main growth drivers for them at the beginning, because they allowed their users to be visible on the platform they were used to, and that they knew that worked, but at the same time, without extra effort, being visible on Airbnb. And this is still a strategy that can work sometimes quite well. So thinking about where are my users now, we tried also for some clients, for example, to be very active on Willhaben, because it's a massive platform in Austria and people are using it. And how could we basically leverage Willhaben as a platform for our clients, basically. You could also, if you're in a job environment, for example, we also had a job platform client, and they're still like LinkedIn, and jobs on LinkedIn worked really well because people are looking at job ads on LinkedIn. So I don't know, you have to find this way of onboarding your customers from the old way of doing it to your new way. And once they learn that it's maybe easier and much better to do it with your platform, they will become customers at the end of the day. So really thinking about which platforms could I utilize can be really a great traction channel as well. Yeah. Then, of course, the classic one of thinking about search engine optimization. So your organic ranking on Google, which can be a great driver for traffic, but also when talking about the app world, thinking about App Store optimization. So that's also a thing, really trying to optimize your presence in an app store and thinking about what people are searching for in the App Store as well, and not only in Google, basically, and how could I be found as an app in the App Store, since there was a question about app, might make sense, but then also really working on your App Store presence, for example, and what images am I showing, what are my descriptions, and really like nailing that as well to get the user actually converting and downloading your app is something that you can focus on, or test different images, different text snippets to learn what works or doesn't work. Or maybe also how your whole title and name is given for the app in terms of search intents users are having. And the same goes for basically Google search results. I mean, Google is still the dominant player, and of course there's Bing or Ecosia or other alternatives, but let's face it, Google is kind of the dominant player in the market, and of course having a good positioning can bring you great traffic, but it's not that easy. It's a highly competitive environment, and basically you really need to work on it. Have your there are three aspects basically you need to keep in mind. One is the technical aspect. So is your page fast enough? Is it mobile friendly? That became so much more important over the last years. Is it loading fast enough? Is it indexed properly? Like all these technical requirements basically towards your page. The other one is on page, and there just the trend is really you have to fulfill the search intent of the user. It's less about keyword stuffing anymore. Of course, you need to give like Google enough bits and pieces of the keywords so that the algorithm can understand that this page is really about this topic. But what's changed strongly is this whole user experience that pays also much stronger in your ranking, because basically Google is also looking on, is a user that is clicking on the link in the search result, if they're going to the page, are they staying on the page, are they leaving instantly, are they going back to Google, are they engaging with the page? So they're really taking into account for the rating as well, if the page is relevant basically for that search result. So having a content mix is super important. So having bullet points or having a table and having different content elements on the site became super important, and not only stuffing basically crazy keywords on your page, but really working on this whole experience for the user is super important for SEO. Good. Looking at the time. If you want to jump the line, basically, you can, of course, think about doing search engine ads. So we all know these are the top placements here on top compared to the organic rankings underneath. Especially at the beginning, it's faster to get, of course, an ad placement at the top compared to an organic ranking at the top. But it's faster, you need to pay for it, and it's maybe less sustainable in the sense that when you turn the ads off, it's you're also gone basically. But still, doing search ads can work well, and also thinking about different tactics here can pay off, as already mentioned. For example, also this niche event targeting, and really maybe thinking about not just the super long, super broad keywords, but really becoming very specific can help you basically be more efficient with your search ads. But generally can be a great driver for traffic, so should be definitely in here. As well as all the broad variations of social media ads that you can do. And basically, it's now much more than just Facebook and Instagram that you think about most of the time when you think about social media ads, but really think about where your customer is, and how they behave, and what they do, and where you could get them. So maybe it's not only these two bad boys on the left, but maybe if your audience is female and into fashion and basically DIY, maybe Pinterest is your go-to platform, not only from an organic perspective, but also from an ad perspective. Or you can try Spotify ads, which are more awareness, I would say. Also, Google Ads offers not only search ads, but display placements or YouTube placements. There are options now to advertise on Tinder or TikTok. It's the sky's the limit in an ad world sense. But maybe another platform is your go-to, but nevertheless, Facebook and Instagram ads work still quite well and are relatively cheap compared to others. But also think about your organic strategy at the same time on these channels. So maybe you can also do a TikTok challenge that has the potential of going viral, rather than investing a lot of money in ads. But that all depends, of course, on your product and your target group, if it makes sense or not. So basically always try to figure out where your target audience could be. And the last one we're going to talk about is basically, of course, if you already have a customer base, try to leverage them. And a classic way of doing that is having a referral program in place. This is the very old example of Dropbox, where basically the referral program was one of the main drivers for growth. The nice thing here is about that it really was the product basically they used in their referral mechanism, which I like about it, because they ask people basically to invite others to get more out of their product. And I always like if referral programs are not just purely you give and get €5 or a discount, but it really leverages the product as well at the same time. I see here, I can subscribe to having TikTok as a growth driver, especially with a young target audience. Yes. Thanks, Bianca. Maybe if you want to share something afterwards on your experience, I think that would be great for everyone. But yeah, referral programs, they are widely used nowadays. So you really need to set up mechanisms that motivate people to share. I mean, if you think about Uber or Lime, or there's a lot of companies out there that really use referral strategies as their first move into new markets. So every time Uber is going to a new city, they really strongly rely on this whole referral mechanism to get a lot of new users on board. Of course, over time it's getting less, but that's their market enter strategy. Yeah, somehow like this. So setting up a good referral program can be a great growth driver, basically. But as said, this is just a piece of so many other things you could do. You could think more about also YouTube and what you could do there, not only in an ad world, but also in an organic way. It's one of the biggest networks out there, and it also has a strong and growing customer base in like the elderly population. So if your audience is a bit older, maybe YouTube is also a great channel to think about. You can think about everything around email marketing and automations. You can think about doing partnerships with other organizations that can help you grow. You can also think about really snail mail is here. So old school printed products and mails that you send out. There are so many options basically and possibilities. And what I added you here, but I'm not going to talk about it in detail, basically is different tools for different things. So you will all get this presentation afterwards, but I always think it's kind of useful to have an overview of different tools for different things you might need. So I just added it here for being it A/B testing or website analytics or UX and UI performance, social media. It's a massive list. I'm not getting into detail. What referral systems are out there you could use, tools for service, because understanding your customer is always important. So surveys are a good tool for that. To different tests you should do for your SEO rating. And at the end, basically a bit of a book, a reading recommendation list that can help you think about a couple of topics. Lean startup and the mom test, I think Vali talked about in the last startup snack as well. Which funnel management software do you recommend? HubSpot, yeah. HubSpot is a classic one. It's also GetResponse can be quite useful if I think it's a broad question because it always depends on what the goal of your funnel is. So if it's really an email funnel, for example, and you have this whole basically people signing up and you want them to become a webinar attendant or something like that, then GetResponse can be also quite powerful. Other than that, HubSpot is in general a good way for setting that up. Also ActiveCampaign can be quite useful because it has a lot of CRM functionalities and mail automations on top. So I don't know, every system has a bit, or every software has a bit of their advantages and disadvantages as well, or different price tags. So depending on the specific needs, it might make sense to go for one or the other platform. Cool. That's it. Are there any other questions from your side?